My parents drained $127,000 from my account for my brother's Asian culinary tour, but when they came back, I had quietly set a chain of actions that left them completely powerless. I was 30 years old when this story started, living in a quiet corner of Boise, Idaho. I worked full-time as a paramedic, pulling long shifts that bounced between adrenaline-fueled emergencies and long hours of nothing but waiting and paperwork. It wasn't glamorous, but it was solid work. I liked knowing I made a difference, even if it came in short, chaotic bursts. More than anything, I liked that I could stand on my own 2 feet. My name's Darren. I've always been the dependable one. The rock of the family, as my dad liked to say, back when he actually said things to me other than, "Can you help us out?" These days, dependable mostly meant helping out with other people's messes. Usually Jason's. Jason is my younger brother, 24 and fresh out of culinary school. He's the dreamer, the golden child, the one who always had someone making excuses for him. If he forgot to pay a bill, someone bailed him out. If he didn't turn in a paper, there was always a rough time to blame. Meanwhile, I was learning CPR at 16 and getting called to pick him up from parties before I even had my own license. To be fair, Jason has talent. Real talent. He can plate a steak like it's art and fold a crepe one-handed. And despite everything, I was proud of him when he graduated last spring. I even surprised him with a gift I knew he'd never afford on his own, a full set of handcrafted Japanese chef knives, the kind real chefs dream about. It had taken me months of overtime to save up for it, but the look on his face made it feel worth it. For a while, we were never close, not really. He was always the one making noise while I tried to keep the walls from falling down. Our parents never said it out loud, but the roles were clear from the start. I was expected to help, and he was expected to shine. Mom once joked that I came out of the womb holding a checklist. I laughed at the time, but I think she meant it. My apartment wasn't much, a second-floor walk-up near the hospital, just me and a fish tank I barely remembered to clean. But it was mine. I'd worked hard for that independence, trading in every bit of my 20s for a sense of calm and financial stability. I didn't have much time for dating or hobbies, but I didn't miss the chaos. My world was simple, structured, safe. I liked it that way. Every few months, Jason would call in a panic. He'd lost his wallet, or his car wouldn't start, or he needed help moving again. And every time, I showed up. Sometimes with cash, sometimes with a wrench, sometimes just with patience. I told myself it was what big brothers do. But deep down, I knew something was off. I'd started to feel like a safety net stretched too thin. Like the fixer who never got fixed. Like I was holding up someone else's life while mine hovered in the background. That feeling? It never really left. I was halfway through my second cup of coffee when my phone rang. It was a Saturday morning, one of the rare ones where I didn't have to work a shift or cover for someone else. I had plans, clean the fish tank, maybe hit the gym, and enjoy the silence. The second I saw Mom flash on the screen, I knew those plans were dead. "Hi, sweetie," she chirped, like she hadn't just interrupted the only peaceful moment of my week. "Guess what we did for Jason?" I rubbed the side of my face. "What's going on?" "We surprised him. We sent him on a culinary tour of Asia, Bangkok, Tokyo, Seoul, first class all the way. He's going to eat at all those Michelin star places he talks about." "Oh, Darren," he was so excited. "You should have seen his face when we gave him the tickets." I blinked. "Wait, you're serious?" "Of course I'm serious," she said, as if this kind of thing happened all the time. "You know how passionate he is about food. This is exactly what he needs to launch his career. And think of the exposure. All those chefs he could meet. All those restaurants." I sat down slowly, coffee forgotten. "How did you even pay for all that?" "Oh, that's the best part," she said with a chuckle. "We just used your debit account. It was already linked from when you helped Jason with his school books, remember? So convenient." At first, I thought I misheard her. "You use my account?" "Just until we figure out the rest," she said, like we were discussing some harmless family chore. "You always said you were doing okay, and this was such a good opportunity for your brother. He needs this. You know how hard the job market is." I stood up, heart racing. "How much?" How much did you charge to my account, Mom?" "Oh, I don't know the exact figure," she said lightly. "Your dad handled it. Something like 127,000, I think." I felt like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. 127,000? I repeated, my voice louder than I meant. "Well, you know," she said quickly, suddenly more defensive. "Flights, hotels, food, bookings. These things add up. But don't be upset. This is a good thing. You always said Jason needed structure. This trip will give him direction." I could barely speak. "You had no right. That money." "Oh, please don't start," she cut in. "You've always had this stingy attitude when it comes to helping your family. We've supported you, haven't we? And now it's your turn. You should be happy to contribute to your brother's future. You've always had a steady income, Darren. You don't even have kids or a mortgage. What else is that money for?" That was when something in me snapped. Not with yelling or rage, but with a cold, terrifying kind of clarity. I'd been holding this family up for years, and now they didn't even think they needed to ask. I want that money back, I said. She laughed. Oh, Darren, it's done. Just be happy for your brother, okay? And then she hung up. Just like that. Like we'd talked about the weather. I didn't move for a full minute after the call ended. My phone sat on the table, screen gone dark, like it hadn't just lit my whole world on fire. I stared at it, heart pounding, waiting for the punchline. Some follow-up message. Some sheepish callback. Nothing. I yanked my laptop open and logged into my bank account. The balance hit me like a gut punch. Almost everything was gone. Savings, checking, emergency fund, wiped out. I scrolled through the transactions. They weren't subtle about it. First-class airline tickets. Luxury hotel bookings. A deposit to a culinary retreat in Tokyo. Private dining experience in Seoul. Some upscale cooking academy in Singapore I'd never heard of. Thousands at a time, over and over. It didn't look like someone using a little bit of help. It looked like someone throwing a damn parade with my money. That's when I remembered. I had lent Jason my debit card months ago. He needed to buy a textbook that wasn't in stock anywhere else. I figured it was easier than him applying for another student credit card. Told him to return it after, but of course he never did. I hadn't even thought to cancel the card. That's how much I trusted him, or maybe how numb I'd become to cleaning up after him. I called him, straight to voicemail. I tried again, then again. Finally, on the fourth try, he picked up. Hey bro. Jason's voice came through, loud and way too cheerful. I could hear wind in the background, like he was outside. Can I call you back later? I'm at this rooftop tasting in Bangkok. The view's insane. Don't hang up, I said. We need to talk. Now. He laughed like I'd said something adorable. All right. Geez. You used my debit card, I said. Mom and Dad charged everything to my account. Over 100 grand. Are you out of your mind? Oh, come on, he said, not missing a beat. It's not like you were doing anything with it. And it's not even that much when you think about the kind of exposure I'm getting here. These places have wait lists for months. One of the chefs here used to work under Nobu, bro. This is like a career-making opportunity. He sent something before I could respond, a photo. It popped up on my screen. Jason, holding a plate of Wagyu and foam something or other, flashing a smug grin beside a celebrity-looking chef in a white coat. The caption read, "Thanks for the seasoning," with a winky face and a knife emoji. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I didn't understand it, but because I did. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Jason knew exactly what he was doing, and he thought it was funny. You think this is a joke? I asked, voice tight. He sighed, like I was exhausting him. Look, Darren, you're the responsible one, right? You always land on your feet. I'll pay you back, okay? Just not right away. And Mom said you're being kind of dramatic about this. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just listened as he kept rambling about the DuckCon fee he'd just tried, and how he had a spot reserved next week at some fusion school in Tokyo. You should be proud of me, bro, he said. I'm actually doing something with my life. No, I said quietly. You're doing something with mine. He chuckled like he hadn't heard me. Anyway, gotta run. Chef's calling us back in for dessert. You'll love the pics. I'll tag you. He hung up. I sat there in silence, staring at my phone again. Still no apology. Still no shame. Just desserts and hashtags, and a life funded by the guy left holding the empty wallet. And worse, I knew they all thought I'd let it go. Like I always did. Monday morning, I called the bank the second they opened. I didn't sleep the night before. I lay in bed with my mind running laps around numbers and receipts. Jason's stupid. Thanks for the seasoning. Still burning in the back of my eyelids. When the customer service rep finally came on the line, I didn't waste time. There's been unauthorized spending on my account, I said. Massive charges, international travel, luxury bookings. I need the account frozen and the charges disputed. She asked for my information, walked me through security questions, and pulled up the account. There was a pause on her end, and for a moment I thought she was just as horrified as I was. Then she said it. Sir, I'm seeing these transactions were made with a physical card, not an online compromise. I know, I said. It was my debit card. I lent it to my brother a few months ago, but I didn't authorize these charges. I want to report this as fraud. Another pause. Unfortunately, since the card was given voluntarily, even if it was some time ago, the charges don't meet the criteria for fraud under our policy. I blinked. Are you serious? I understand this is frustrating, she said, her tone shifting into something stiff and robotic. But unless the card was reported lost or stolen before the charges occurred, we cannot classify the transactions as unauthorized. You would need to file a civil claim directly. So you're telling me someone can drain $127,000 from my account, and you're not going to do anything about it? She hesitated. We can freeze the account to prevent further transactions, and I can help you open a new one with new credentials. but we won't be able to reverse the charges. I was silent. We do recommend that in the future, cards are never shared. I know, I snapped. Thanks for the lesson. She gave me a number for the claims department in case I wanted to escalate, but I already knew how that would go. Fine print and dead ends. They'd nod and take notes and apologize for the inconvenience, then tell me the same thing. I hung up and stared at the wall. My savings were gone. The knife money. The emergency fund. Everything I'd built to avoid living paycheck to paycheck drained. And the people who did it didn't even flinch. I felt like an idiot. Not just for trusting them, but for believing the system would protect me. All my life, I've been the responsible one. Paid my bills on time. Never overdraft. Never missed a payment. Played it safe. And when someone reached in and took everything, no alarms went off. No red flags. Just a quiet shrug from the institution I thought was supposed to have my back. I wasn't just broke. I was trapped. And if I wanted justice, I'd have to get it on my own terms. Something in me hardened that day. Whatever came next, it wasn't going to be about asking anymore. It was going to be about taking back control. The next morning, I opened Instagram and typed in my brother's handle. There he was, at Jason Eats World, beaming in nearly every post, holding up plates like trophies. I scrolled through dozens of photos, him in a silk robe at a rooftop pool in Hong Kong, grinning beside a chef in Singapore, standing in front of a tower of sushi in Tokyo. He tagged every hotel, every restaurant, every airline. Hashtag foodie life, hashtag chef on tour, hashtag funded by the universe. Funded by me, actually. I opened a spreadsheet and started building a list. Hotels, flight numbers, cooking classes, restaurant reservations. He was stupid enough to post it all in real time. First, the airline. I dug into the confirmation emails that had hit my inbox weeks ago. I'd never bothered reading them until now. The return flight was booked under my name because the payment method was linked to my account. I called the airline's customer service and calmly told them there had been a payment error and the ticket should be suspended pending a fraud inquiry. It took 2 escalations and some fake confusion on my part, but eventually they agreed to place a temporary hold while it was reviewed. Jason's return trip? No longer guaranteed. Next, I called the Bangkok hotel where he posted poolside selfies. I explained, politely, that the card on file had been compromised and needed to be deactivated immediately. When they asked if I had an alternate form of payment, I said no. Not unless the guest in question, Mr. Jason R., provided his own. I heard the faint clatter of a keyboard and the receptionist confirming the hold was removed from the minibar and room service access. One down. The next place was a cooking school in Tokyo, some exclusive place with a month-long masterclass. I used the reservation number from a screenshot he posted with the caption, "One step closer to my dream." I posed as Jason's assistant and told them the payment was no longer valid due to a business dispute. They were polite, but firm. No valid payment, no continued access. They would pause his spot and investigate. I went down the list, canceling, freezing, or flagging anything tied to my card. Private tasting in Seoul? Gone. Sushi tour in Kyoto? Cancelled. Hotel spa appointments? Reversed. For every smile he posted, I erased a perk behind the scenes. At one point, I opened his latest story, Jason standing on a balcony in a robe, sipping something frothy. "Morning, everyone," he said into the camera. "We've got a crazy lineup today, dim sum masterclass, then off to the hotel spa. This is the life." I watched it while I was on hold with the Kyoto hotel, telling them the room upgrade was charged without authorization. "You want to spend my money like it grows on trees? Fine. Let's see how far you get when the branches snap." Each call gave me a sick, satisfying dose of power. Not rage. Not pettiness. Just balance. For the first time, I wasn't patching things up. I wasn't the fixer. I was the storm. By the time the sun set, I traced and touched nearly every thread of his little vacation. And I still wasn't done. I leaned back in my chair, scrolling through his post one last time. His followers were eating it up. Living the dream. One person commented, "So jealous." I smirked. They wouldn't be jealous for long. It started with a missed call. Then another. And another. By the time I glanced at my phone around lunchtime, Jason had called 6 times in a row and left me 3 voice messages. The first one was casual. "Hey, bro, weird issue with the hotel. Think the card got flagged or something? Call me when you can." The second one, less friendly. "Okay, I can't check in. They're saying there's no valid payment. What the hell, man?" The third, "You froze everything? Are you serious? What is wrong with you?" I didn't answer. I watched the calls roll in like waves. Then I turned my phone on silent and went back to work. Around 4 p.m., he finally got through. "What did you do?" he demanded the second I picked up. No greeting. No hesitation. Just pure, panicked rage. "I froze the account," I said calmly. "You're joking." "No. You can't do that. I'm stranded, Darren." They kicked me out of the hotel. I had to sit in the lobby for 2 hours trying to figure out what was going on. "I had a cooking class today." "Yeah, I interrupted. I canceled that too. He went quiet for a second. Then came the explosion. What the actual hell is wrong with you? You ruined everything. This trip was my chance. Do you even understand what you've done? I leaned back in my chair. You stole from me, Jason. It wasn't stealing. You gave me the card. I lent it to you once. Months ago. For textbooks. You never returned it. Then you and Mom charged over $100,000 to my account without even asking. He scoffed. You're so dramatic. No, I said. I'm just done. You left me in a foreign country with no backup. You used me like a piggy bank, I said. Now the piggy's closed. He muttered something I didn't catch. Then came the line that nearly made me laugh. You're ruining my future. I stood up and paced toward my window. No, Jason. You ruined your future the second you thought I'd keep covering for you no matter what. He was breathing heavily now, trying to hold it together. I'm your brother, he said. You can't just leave me out here. I can, I said. And I have. Then I hung up. 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. Mom this time. Darren, what are you doing? Jason is trapped in Japan. Do you have any idea what that looks like for our family? I stayed quiet. He's calling in tears. He can't even eat. Good, I said. Let him feel it. Don't do this, she hissed. You're abandoning him. No, I said. I'm finally not rescuing him. She tried again, her voice sharp and scolding. You're tearing this family apart. But I was already done. I hung up. Then I blocked her number. Blocked Jason's too. The silence that followed was the best thing I'd heard in years. It didn't take long for the story to spread. By the next morning, I was getting side eyes from relatives I hadn't heard from in months. First came a passive-aggressive text from Aunt Celia. I hope you're proud of yourself. Your poor brother's stuck on the other side of the world with no money. Family means helping each other, Darren. Right. Family also means not robbing one of your own blind. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Instead, I started gathering receipts, actual ones. Screenshots of the transactions. Bank statements. The thanks for the seasoning. Selfie Jason sent me. The whole digital paper trail of betrayal. Then I emailed it all to the family group chat. No subject line. No explanation. Just the facts. I didn't say a word after. Let the evidence speak louder than I ever could. It worked faster than I expected. Cousin Danny responded first, surprisingly direct. Well, I didn't know it was like that. That's messed up. Then a string of silence. No one else replied publicly. But I saw the read receipts. They all looked. They all knew. And just like that, the mood shifted. I heard later from a friend of a cousin of an in-law that Jason's return flight had been canceled. Without the original cardholder authorization, the airline couldn't reconfirm the booking. He was denied boarding at the counter. Had to scramble for a new flight home, pay out of pocket, and settle for economy on a budget airline with 2 layovers. All while dragging a broken suitcase full of kitchen souvenirs. My parents? Oh, they scrambled too. Mom tried calling every contact she had to figure out a way to fix this. But they were met with polite stonewalls. Turns out international travel arrangements don't work so well when the money dries up mid-trip. The end of Jason's gastronomic journey came with stale airport sandwiches and an unpaid minibar bill. He finally made it back to the States, sunburned, broke, and furious. But something else had changed too. People weren't rushing to defend him anymore. Not with screenshots in hand. Even the usual family defenders, the ones who always gave Jason the benefit of the doubt, were uncharacteristically quiet. My uncle even called me. The same uncle who once told me I was too uptight. Look, he said, sighing. I didn't realize what was going on. I don't know what I thought. But you were right to draw the line. I'd have done the same. I didn't say much. Just thanked him and hung up. In the silence afterward, I realized something for once. I wasn't being guilted into silence. I wasn't being asked to fix, to smooth over, to be the responsible one. I was just standing still. Jason's empire of indulgence had collapsed. And all I had done was let the gravity of his own choices pull it down. They showed up unannounced the day after Jason got back. I'd just gotten home from a 14-hour shift, still in uniform, my boots tracking in gravel from the hospital lot. I hadn't even taken off my jacket when the knock came. Not a polite one either. A loud, impatient pounding like they were kicking down a door they still believe belonged to them. I opened it, and there they were, Jason, Mom, and Dad, lined up like some kind of grim family reunion. Jason looked awful. Sunburned, puffy eyes, hair greasy and flat. Mom's arms were cross-tight, like she'd rehearsed this standoff. Dad looked tired, but more annoyed than anything. Can we come in? Mom asked. No, I said. That caught her off guard. Darren, don't be ridiculous, she snapped. This isn't the time to be dramatic. Neither is it the time to barge into my home like you didn't rob me blind. I replied. Jason shoved his way forward, stepping right up into the doorway. You ruined my life, he spat. I was building something, and you took it all away like some kind of power trip. I leaned on the doorframe. You mean the trip you funded with my savings? That one. I was networking, he snapped. Getting real experience. You don't understand what that even means. What I understand, I said slowly, is that you stole from me. And instead of apologizing, you're here blaming me because your first-class buffet got shut down. Dad finally spoke up, rubbing his temples. We just need to talk, Darren. Face to face. Enough of this cold shoulder crap. I looked at all of them. Tired, cornered, still somehow thinking they had the right to be here. You want to talk? I asked. Fine. Let's talk. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, standing on the small landing of my apartment entrance. It was freezing out, but I didn't care. You took $127,000 out of my account without asking, I said. You used my trust, my name, and a debit card I forgot to cancel. You booked luxury hotels and fine dining experiences while I worked overnight shifts and ate vending machine burritos. That's not fair, Mom said quickly. We thought. No, you didn't think, I snapped. You assumed. You assumed I'd roll over like always. Just like when Jason flunked out of his first program and I helped pay to get him re-enrolled. Or when you needed rent money and I handed it over without a question. Or when Dad couldn't pay his car loan and I made 3 months of payments without telling anyone. Darren, Dad said stiffly, we're family. We help each other. Help? I laughed. You didn't help. You demanded. You expected. And when I stopped saying yes, suddenly I was the problem. Jason was pacing now, arms flying. You could have just said no. You didn't have to humiliate me. You made me look like a joke out there. You did that to yourself? I said calmly. All I did was pull the curtain back. There was a long silence. Then Mom stepped forward, voice low and trembling. So what now? You just cut us off. I nodded. Yes. We're your parents, she said. Jason is your brother. And I was your son. Your brother, I said. But you didn't treat me like one. You treated me like a credit line. I turned, opened the door just enough to slip back inside. You're not welcome here anymore, I said. No more money. No more support. No more fixer. You burned that bridge. Jason's voice cracked behind me. So that's it. That's it, I said, and closed the door. I stood there for a moment, in the quiet of my living room, finally alone. No yelling. No guilt. No manipulation. Just silence. It felt like peace. It took nearly 2 months of phone calls, paperwork, and more stress than I thought possible, but the fraud complaint finally gained traction. At first, the bank stuck to their script. The card was given voluntarily. This doesn't meet our internal fraud criteria. But I didn't let it go. I compiled every piece of evidence I had. The time-stamped messages, the bank statements, screenshots from Jason's Instagram bragging about private chefs and hotel upgrades, tagged with my card information and the receipts. Eventually, after I filed a formal complaint through the state's financial regulatory agency, the tone changed. A week later, I got a call from someone much higher up in the chain. We've reviewed your case, Mr. Lawrence, she said, sounding less robotic than the others. Given the scale and nature of the spending, and the lack of direct authorization for each transaction, we're going to classify this as abuse of access. You'll receive a full reimbursement within 10 business days. I didn't say anything right away. I just let the words sink in. 10 days later, it all hit my account. $127,000, plus interest. Like a wound that had finally closed. But I wasn't the same guy anymore. The first thing I did was change every password, close every old account, shred the backup debit cards I used to hand out, just in case. I added 2-factor authentication, moved my savings to a separate credit union, and made sure my name was no longer on anything my family had access to. I wasn't leaving another door open, not even a crack. They still tried, of course. A voicemail from my mother, her voice shaking like she'd just run a mile. We made a mistake, Darren. But cutting us off completely? You've changed. You're not the son I raised. She was right. I wasn't. I didn't return her call. Jason never tried again. No apology. No explanation. Just silence. Maybe he was too embarrassed. Maybe he still didn't think he did anything wrong. Either way, I didn't care. I went back to work. Took on extra shifts for a while, not because I needed the money, but because it gave me structure, a way to rebuild my own rhythm without anyone else's chaos pulling me under. It took time to find normal again. To walk through a grocery store without checking my balance first. To sleep without that tightness in my chest. To look in the mirror and not feel like a fool. But I got there. One night, I stood in my kitchen, watching the fish swim in lazy circles in the tank I'd finally cleaned. The apartment was quiet. Safe. Mine. I thought about everything that had happened, not with anger anymore, but with clarity. I'd spent my life being the glue, the safety net, the one who caught every broken piece of my family. And it took losing everything for me to realize something simple. I was never responsible for holding them together. And letting go wasn't a betrayal. It was the beginning of freedom.